I'm not giving up no matter what. Giving up. No matter what. I'll push through however hard it gets. Push through. However hard it gets. He often goes against the grain to stand up for his beliefs. Goes against the grain. Stand up for. He has the courage of his convictions, even if it means going against everyone else. Courage of his convictions, going against everyone else. I believe failure is just a stepping stone to success. Stepping stone. Success in progress. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. What doesn't kill you. She always finds the silver lining in every situation. Look on the bright side. Silver lining. I'm not sure what the outcome of this decision will be. Outcome. Not sure. He's a man of double standards. His actions never match his words. Double standards. Never walks the talk. I want to step out of my comfort zone and try things I've never done before. Step out of my comfort zone. Try things. Don't mistake my silence for weakness. Silence is an answer in itself. Mistake something for. She overcame every obstacle to reach her goal. Overcome every obstacle. Reach her goal. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Take a step back. Look at the bigger picture. He always manages to keep it together when everything is falling apart. Keep a cool head. Keep it together. Falling apart. I can't completely agree, but I see where you're coming from. See where you're coming from. Not 100% with you. Opportunities often come when you least expect them. When you least expect them. I want to make my life count rather than just going through the motions. Live a life of purpose. Make my life count. Going through the motions. Don't judge a book by its cover. There's more to him than meets the eye. She learned a valuable lesson the hard way. Valuable takeaway. Everything happens for a reason. A big believer. Meant to. I had a change of plans because of the rain. I'll hit the supermarket later. Put it off. Hit the supermarket. Once you visit Hanoi, you'll see for yourself why it has such a special place in people's hearts. See for yourself. Special place in someone's heart. I'm trying to wrap things up by the end of the week, even though so many things keep popping up. Wrap things up. Keep popping up. Yesterday, I ran into an old friend I hadn't seen in 10 years. Ran into. Caught up. I was cooking when the phone rang, and it made me completely forget about what was on the stove. Completely forget. On the stove. I originally planned to share my thoughts, but I chose to wait for a better opportunity. Bring up. Keep it to myself. Vibe. Despite his strong technical expertise, his lack of communication skills is holding him back. Holding him back. Owning up to your mess-ups in front of the boss is tough, but it's the only way to keep that trust alive. Owning up to mess-ups. Keep that trust alive. Let's not jump the gun. We need to look at the downsides before making a call. Rush into. Jump the gun. Weighing all the potential risks. Making a call. Instead of stressing over things I can't change, I'd rather focus on what's actually within my control. Beyond my control. Within my control. Putting all my effort into. Sometimes we get so caught up in chasing big dreams that we forget to appreciate what's right in front of us. Get caught up in, right in front of us. I really appreciate your honesty, even though it's a bit hard to swallow right now. Appreciate your honesty. Hard to swallow. A bit. Thanks for being real with me. It's not exactly what I wanted to hear at the moment, but I value your transparency. Being real with me. Value your transparency. Not exactly what I wanted to hear at the moment. Instead of pointing fingers, why don't we sit down and figure out a win-win solution? Pointing fingers. Figure out. Win-win solution. Don't take this the wrong way, but I'm only speaking up because I want us to get the best possible result for this project. Don't take this the wrong way. Speaking up. The best possible result. I seriously couldn't have made the deadline without your help. You really saved my skin back there. Made the deadline. Save my skin. Back there. The terrible weather really messed up our schedule, so we had to scrap some of our outdoor plans. Messed up. Scrap. Outdoor plans. I just assumed I was well prepared for the interview, but their unexpected questions left me speechless. Just assumed. Unexpected questions. Speechless. Learning a new language isn't just about memorizing words, it's about getting a feel for the culture and the way people actually think. Getting a feel for. Isn't just about, it's about. Actually think. Sometimes our toughest experiences end up being our most valuable lessons in growth. Toughest experiences end up being lessons in growth. I've been in the embedded space for over 5 years now, cutting my teeth on C++ and Linux. My experience spans the entire life cycle, from hardware schematics all the way to software optimization. Cutting my teeth on spans the entire life cycle, all the way to... In my last role, I headed up the firmware development. It was quite a challenge because we were working with extremely tight hardware constraints. Head up, tight hardware constraints. There's often a tug of war between the hardware and software teams, but I always try to bridge the gap to find the best trade-off for the system. Tug of war, bridge the gap, trade-off. Since tech moves so fast, I make it a point to stay ahead of the curve rather than just sticking to what I know. Stay ahead of the curve, stick to something. When a project hits crunch time, I'm good at staying level-headed and triaging tasks to make sure we hit our delivery dates. Crunch time. Level-headed, triaging tasks. I was stuck on a memory leak all day, but it turned out to be an unreleased pointer in a weird edge case that slipped through the cracks. Stuck on, turned out to be, slipped through the cracks. Even with smart pointers, circular references can be a real pain because they keep the reference count from hitting 0, preventing objects from being deallocated. Real pain. Keep something from VING, reference count, deallocated. Sure, smart pointers make memory management a lot safer, but you've still got to watch out for circular references or your objects will never get destroyed. Watch out for, get destroyed. Sure, but smart pointers aren't a silver bullet. You still have to be mindful of circular references. That's why I usually use weak PTR to break the cycle. Not a silver bullet. Be mindful of, break the cycle. In embedded systems, you can't just throw around dynamic allocation. It's a recipe for memory fragmentation, which can hang the system when you least expect it. Throw around. Recipe for something bad. Least expect it. We have to avoid allocating memory on the fly because it leads to fragmentation issues. In a resource-constrained environment, that's an easy way to crash the whole thing. On the fly, resource-constrained environment, crash the whole thing when you least expect it. I initially was going to keep the driver in user space for better stability, but the strict real-time requirements forced me to move it into kernel space to cut down on latency. Strict real-time requirements. Cut down on latency. I wanted to play it safe by developing the driver in user space, but because we couldn't afford any delays, I had no choice but to push it down to the kernel level. Play it safe. Couldn't afford any delays. Push it down to. Debugging a kernel panic is like looking for a needle in a haystack, unless you know how to make sense of the logs and analyze the stack trace systematically. Looking for a needle in a haystack. Make sense of, systematically. A kernel panic can be a nightmare to debug. It's pretty much impossible to solve unless you're comfortable digging through logs and breaking down the stack trace to find the root cause. Nightmare to debug. Digging through logs. Breaking down. I managed to speed up the boot time by stripping down unnecessary services and fine-tuning the bootloader. Stripping down, fine-tuning, boot time. I2C can get pretty flaky if the traces are too long, so I usually favor SPI for modules that need high speed and a rock-solid connection. Flaky, traces, rock-solid. The rule of thumb for interrupts is to keep your ISR as lean as possible, otherwise you'll end up stalling other high-priority tasks. Rule of thumb, stalling, high-priority tasks. When handling interrupts, you want to minimize the execution time inside the ISR to avoid introducing latency to the rest of the system. Execution time, rest of the system. I ran into this really bizarre hardware bug caused by signal noise. It was basically feeding the system garbage data from the sensor. Bizarre. Feeding the system. I implemented a factory to handle object creation. It cuts down on the boilerplate and gives us a single point of control if we need to change things later. Cut down on the boilerplate, single point of control, change things later. For the system settings, a singleton made the most sense. It guarantees a single point of truth and prevents any conflicting configurations across the modules. Made the most sense. Single point of truth, conflicting configurations. Since the legacy interface wasn't compatible with the new API out of the box, I implemented an adapter to make them work together seamlessly. Out of the box, seamlessly. I implemented an observer pattern so that the core logic can notify the UI whenever something changes. This triggers an automatic refresh on the display side. Core logic, trigger an automatic refresh. To avoid that whole spaghetti code of switch cases for every single state, I went with the state pattern. It encapsulates each state's behavior